If you want to hear about St. Louis, tune into the Bucket List Show weekly. Hear what Marissa and Luke say. It drops every Wednesday. Got a dope new guest every single week. Buckle up for the ride. Who's it gonna be? Who's on the show today? They rep St. Louis. What to do in the loo on a late night, or maybe what to do on a date night. Yeah, Bucket List has you covered. They know what's going on. What's going on, they'll give you, hey, 18 different things to do, or 19 if you need one more to choose. Yeah, this city is a place we call home. A place we call home, yeah.
The STL Bucket List Show is driven by Bomarito Automotive Group. Bomarito is Missouri's #1 car dealership, and they are proud to represent the #1 podcast in St. Louis, the STL Bucket List Show. We've personally purchased several vehicles from Bomarito, including our last one, which we recently just had another baby, so we had to upgrade to an SUV with third row seating. The entire team, John, Chuck, they all treated us like family. There's really nowhere else that we would buy a car in Missouri other than Bomarito Automotive Group. Enjoy the show. St. Louis, welcome back to another episode of the STL Bucket List Show. We are committed to highlighting the people, places, and events that make St. Louis special, and we have one of those people in this city that makes St. Louis special. So on this week of the STL Bucket List Show, we're sitting down with Jarrett Young, head of school at City Academy, a unique independent school in North St. Louis dedicated to transforming the educational landscape for children of all backgrounds. Thanks for coming in, Jarrett. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, no, this is cool, man. So I always schedule these episodes, and then the night before I do a deep dive. So I go on, your guys' website and I look at all this stuff. I scrape social media. So it's hard to like encompass all the impact that you guys make. So in your own words, tell us what City Academy is and tell us about, some of the impact that you guys have in our city.
I mean, City Academy, it's an amazing place. It's a place where agency, resources, and belief really come to manifest to allow students to be their best selves, allows families to dream big and think about possibilities that may have been different than the educational backgrounds and experiences that they had, and really allows for St. Louis to pour into St. Louis, because every kid at City Academy is on financial aid. Every kid gets a tremendous amount of wealth from the St. Louis community to make the City Academy experience possible. It costs about $28,000 a year for a kid to be at City Academy, and families on average pay about $3,900, which doesn't sound like a lot to some. $3,900 sounds like a lot to me. I think about my own background and where I grew up. $3,900 is a tremendous investment, but we make that number possible because so many people in St. Louis care, and we get donations from people who understand the educational landscape, but also want to make sure that every kid in St. Louis has a chance to achieve their dreams.
Yeah, no, that's inspiring. So, Jarrett, just to talk about you a little bit before we get into City Academy, going back in your journey in education and kind of what ultimately led you to this job, because obviously you were, I don't even know. Tell me about your before City Academy and kind of what led you to this.
Yeah, I'm just a kid from North St. Louis. I grew up on Clarence between Labadie and Ashland, product of St. Louis Public Schools. My mom was a public school teacher in St. Louis at Euclid Montessori, which is now closed. I went to Washington Montessori and ended up doing the DSEG program, trying to get better educational opportunities. My mother and grandmother really thought that was important for me, and I was fortunate to have their support in doing that. And just by chance, ended up meeting Duncan Marshall, who's actually one of the co-founders at City Academy, and had a chance to go to MICDS. And that experience changed my life. But I used to have to catch the Bi-State bus, now Metro bus, out from North St. Louis to MICDS, and I could see the landscape change. I could see the homes change, the cars change. And it was sad to not have that opportunity in my neighborhood. And that's what makes what I do now so special. So I've had the experience where I've gone to great colleges, went to Bowdoin for undergrad, and that's where I really decided to pour myself into education. Went and got a master's degree at Harvard, and had this chance to explore nationally schools in a variety of different contexts, from higher ed to secondary school. And now to be able to come back to my neighborhood and back to the city that I love so much is the best gift I've been given.
Yeah, no, that is, I mean, to be able to make impact in your own backyard and to see, the places where you grew up and even if it's just one student at a time. And that seems like, a lot about what your guys' mission is one student at a time. And I think what you mentioned before, and for our listeners who may not know, what makes City Academy different from other schools?
Yeah, and we're able to do what many schools can't, because we leverage parents. We have an amazing team of educators, but we also have students that care incredibly deeply about achieving success. And it takes all three of those legs of the tripod to really support a student fully. You have to have families invested in the academic pursuits of their children, but also making sure that their kids have what it takes to take that next step. And how do you continue to invest in education?
Right.
So we have parents that make sure their kids get to school every day. There are no buses.
Yeah.
We have parents that walk in and make sure their kids have breakfast, because we serve breakfast as we open. Kids have snack, they have lunch, they have snack again, and then there's extended day after school.
Yeah.
That's just a part of our program. So we allow for parents to really dive into the academic lives of their kids, have relationships with teachers. We have a wonderful parents group called CAPS, led by Rocky Talavedra, who absolutely crushes it, helping parents see that that investment they have works. And when you have that investment, well, then you have teachers that feel supported. And those teachers are able to pour more fully into their students, which creates this feedback loop that has been ever present in the 27 years that we've had school at City Academy. But time and time, we work to make it stronger. And we do so by making sure that we have the best educators possible.
First Community Credit Union is the official banking partner of STL Bucket List. They've been serving St. Louis families for 90 plus years with 40 plus local branches and over 400,000 members. From personal credit loans to mortgages to kids and teen accounts, they also have a partnership with the STL Blues. You see Louis here if you're watching on YouTube. We're proud to use First Community. I use it for my own family and my own business. We're excited for them to be the official banking partner of STL Bucket List.
Yeah, no, and you mentioned 27 years. I mean, obviously the educational landscape has changed. Now every student has computers, they have AI and all these different things that are new, that every year it's changing on like how you teach these students. And at the end of the day, it all goes back to, and my wife is in education, is caring for each individual student and meeting them where they're at and helping them get towards that next goal. And it seems like, you know, from what I see from what you guys do, you have all these big successes over the past 27 years. Can you talk about any of the alumni or any of the students that came out of your guys' program that really stick out?
Yeah, I mean, I had the pleasure of talking to one of our alums at the MICDS Live for Life football game on Friday evening. And her story is yet to be fully written, but I think about Margesta Ford, who is a ninth grader in MICDS right now. She's an amazing young woman.
Yeah.
And when I went out to MICDS as an alum, but also as a parent, I got to see Margesta talk about her impact, her positive impact at the secondary school, where that was her first demonstrating leadership outside of City Academy, but it was also a reflection of her making a choice that was best for her. She came from a class where the majority of students ended up going to John Burroughs, which is a rival school, but she made that choice to stick with her gut and to go to a place that she thought was best for her. And to see her excelling in that community socially, academically, and to also see how well she's known. I mean, that's a success story. Michael Strawbridge, he went to Rutgers, was one of the highest performing PhD students at Rutgers University. And now he's back in St. Louis in a tenure-track position. And his mother's on the board. She's a lifetime trustee. His brother Marshall went to City Academy and is now at NYU pursuing a degree in urban planning. So, I mean, there's so many successes that are there. There's so many that have yet to be told, but for Michael to be back in St. Louis teaching at WashU and have a chance to come back and help our scholars see that your journey is ever evolving. And you can reach the highest pinnacles of academic success, but you can also do so while remaining connected to your neighborhood has been really, really special.
Yeah, St. Louis is such a unique city in that factor. Is like a lot of people do make their way back here, you being one of those. And, you know, you never probably knew that was part of your journey, but, you know, being here close to family and being able to make impact in your neighborhood. But what do you see as, you know, I talk to a lot of people, but what do you see as more, some of the greatest challenges facing education specifically in St. Louis? Do you have any thoughts on that?
It's so hard because there's so many neighborhoods in St. Louis that are lacking investment, and that lack of investment creates and can create a sense of hopelessness that's real. And one of the things we always talk about at City Academy is impact. And one of the greatest impacts I believe we have is the fact that we exist where we exist. And I remember growing up in North St. Louis in that neighborhood, and you would always see businesses close down. And now we see the Walgreens down the street closing down. We see the aftermath of the tornado
Yeah.
and the needs for helps and support there. But I'm so proud every day I get to drive past City Academy, especially at night, and the lights on, and it's this wonderful City Academy logo.
Yeah.
And we're there as a beacon for education, as a beacon for hope, to show people that they do matter, that their neighborhood matters. And that level of investment is something that I think we sometimes undervalue, but the power of presence is important. And we're present in our community, and we find ways to contribute back, even for students that aren't admitted to City Academy. And I think that's something that has been really impactful for St. Louis, but more importantly, education in St. Louis.
For over 150 years, SSM Health has been providing hope, healing, and opportunities to the St. Louis community. With over 40,000 employees across 4 states, they're not only delivering exceptional care, they're one of the region's largest employers, shaping the future of healthcare. We're proud to present SSM Health as the official healthcare partner of the STL Bucket List Show. If you've dreamed of a career where you're truly making a difference every day, SSM Health can help you take that to the next step. Learn more at their website in the link in the show notes.
Yeah. And you mentioned being present, and that's when I like to talk about kind of the vision. It's hard to paint visions because you guys work on these long-term goals and everything, but what presence do you see to have in St. Louis over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years?
I mean, Don Danforth, the founder of the school, his presence, but also his commitment is something that is awe-inspiring. To have this notion of creating a school from a tutoring program at Matthews Dickey, and then to have that school exist for 27 years when you see places that are trying to do wonderful things like Hawthorne Leadership School for Girls end up suffering enrollment decline and having to close. But for us to be able to continue that work, I think is huge. But we have to think about how we do more. And we're a really special place, and our smallness is part of our specialness. And one of the things we're looking to do is add on to what we're doing. So right now, our youngest scholars, we call them owls. They're 3 and 4-year-olds. And their teacher, Allison Slama, and Michelle Williams, the assistant teacher in there, do amazing work. I was watching Students and Sinners there this morning before I came here for the podcast. And one thing that would be impactful for us that we're working on is building another room for 3 and 4-year-olds so we can enhance capacity. So I want to have that continued growth, but the growth in a way that allows us to maintain our institutional character and also make sure that we don't lose that sense of smallness and specialness that I think our students and parents really appreciate, because we're a really tactical mission in creating families who are ready to be secondary school consumers in that broader landscape in St. Louis. And if you start to get too big, I think you lose the opportunity to really create that connection where families see it as a true partnership and working together.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you in that. And there is something special in a tight-knit community, but also the impact that you have is so much greater than those walls inside the school. And I think that's what's so beautiful about education. And you mentioned some of those stories at the beginning of the show, but at the end of the day, City Academy really thrives on community partnerships, and how important and how do these relationships support the mission and continue the mission?
I mean, they support the mission because they provide resources. I think about Kids Vision for Life. I think about Healthy Kids Express, who are going to be on campus this week providing medical support for our students, because you can't learn if you're not healthy. So how do we make sure our students are healthy? I think about the Bellwether Foundation. I think about other foundations like Gateway Charities that have worked to support us. I think about our individual donors that make it possible. I mean, our financial model is different than every other independent school in St. Louis, where 85% of the revenue is coming from tuition. And for us, that model is flipped. So 14% of our revenue comes from tuition, which can keep you up at night if you didn't have a great development team led by Janice Bailey, Lydia Bryant, Joe Bradley, our director of communications, is absolutely amazing, because we have to make sure that we raise $2.8 million to balance our books. And that's just to cover the needs that we expect to have. So last year, the goal was 2.7. We were able to hit that goal, which is great. And this year it's 2.8, and we'll get there. And we also use the generosity of St. Louis from our endowment to ensure that we're an enduring institution. So our community partners make it possible financially. They make it possible for the health of our students. And we're really grateful to
Yeah.
be supported by such a wonderful network of people who care in St. Louis.
The STL Bucket List Show is proudly sponsored by Suede Dispensary. With 11 Missouri area locations, Suede does so much for the St. Louis community. We've been working with this team for a couple years back since medical was here, and we're excited to support their new product launches, events, and community initiatives. We couldn't be happier to work with this premier cannabis brand, and we're excited for them to sponsor the show. Enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Yeah, St. Louis is such a philanthropic town, and people that get behind, these missions. And when it comes with education and kids, it's not very hard to get behind stuff like that. And what you guys do, and everything from, what I see on your website to social media, everything kind of ties into that mission. You guys are really aligned with that. But I want to talk about you a little bit more because, as a leader of the school, what keeps you inspired on tough days is a hard thing to say because not like tough day, but like what keeps you inspired to keep going towards this mission?
It's always the kids. The kids are amazing. I'm in a building full of rock stars, and I have wonderful coworkers who are just amazing educators. I think about Meredith Thorpe and Liesl Schnook and Donna Hines, who are there stepping alongside me. I think about Kip War, who's working to push students reading the Odyssey as sixth graders and things fall apart. These texts that are deep and tough. I think about our newest additions. We have a former assistant chair of the math department at Mizzou teaching math to fifth and sixth graders right now.
Wow.
And he goes by the loving name of Mr. Steve, which is awesome. And his just diving in with both feet. But the thing that keeps me going, and I'll do something bold and speak for everyone else at City Academy, keeps them going, are our scholars that walk up and down the hallways every day. From Drake, who's one of our newest kiddos, who's an owl, to one of my favorite things I get to do every day that I'm missing right now, which is JK lunch duty.
Yeah.
It's me and 34-year-olds as they sit and have lunch, but you get to hear about their day. You get to know them, tie shoes, open milks, open applesauces, and really be present for them. And it's amazing because they don't care that I'm the head of school. Some of them still think I'm the lunch man. And they will. And I love that too, because no rule's too big for anyone to do what it takes for us to support our scholars at City Academy.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. So if you could wrap up with one message for St. Louis families and other leaders that listen to the show, we have a really big audience on social media, people that really seek out this type of information, but the importance of education. And I feel like, there's never more time to be educated than now. And I always feel like that, and especially with young kids and especially with kids in underserved communities and different things like that. But coming from someone like you who used the power of education to get into the places that you are, what is the importance really of education, and especially with St. Louis families that are listening to the show today?
Love and education are two things that no one can ever take it away from you. And when you have love, you're able to pour love into others. And it's that wonderful Dr. King quote where he says, darkness can't drive out darkness, only light can do that. And hate can't drive out hate, only love can do that. So by creating a place where kids feel loved, hopefully they can pour more love into others, which will help strengthen the connections that we have to one another as St. Louisans. And when you do that, powered by a great education, hopefully you can create more opportunities for yourself to experience life the way in which you want to. And if you're fortunate like me, maybe you have an opportunity to help someone else experience the educational experiences they would like to have so they can curate their own story and move forward to help this wonderful and resurging metropolitan area come back to the grandeur that once was.
Looking for something light, crisp, and absolutely refreshing? Zwickle Light by Urban Chestnut is the official light beer of the STL Bucket List Show. It's less than 100 calories, and it's the perfect drink for summer. Enjoy a beer at the beer garden, in the Grove, or chilling at home in the backyard with your friends and family. This episode is sponsored by Upshot Coffee, 3 St. Louis area locations in Cottleville, Break Shop in St. Charles, and their new Hi-Fi location in Clayton. I personally use Upshot Coffee every day at my espresso machine at home, and I try to visit one of the shops at least once a week. They source the beans responsibly from local farms all across the world, and they take care of their staff, and they take care of the community. Let's get back to the show.
Yeah, no, that's inspiring. So it is the STL Bucket List Show. So we love to talk about St. Louis. You know, we talk about all the work that you guys are doing in St. Louis, but you know, when you're not working, where are you, what places are on your bucket list? So when I think of my bucket list, these are things for maybe my kid's birthday, maybe it's a celebration, maybe it's an anniversary, it's a date night. What places are on your STL bucket list? Maybe we start, you have kiddos.
Yeah.
So let's start with maybe your kids' spots. Like when, let's say they win a game or, you know, they get a good score on their report card. Like what places do your kids like to go to?
Oh, the St. Louis favorite. Everyone loves Ted Drew's.
Yeah.
The Brownie Concrete is a
so
fan
good.
favorite in our house. And yeah, Ted Drew's is a must.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, you know, kids, Ted Drew's, get them a little sweet tooth. I like the cookie dough with the vanilla custard, you know, everything from Ted Drew's, but just the energy you get from a Ted Drew's is just, you're always smiling, sitting on the back of your car, leaning against the car, or whatever. Okay. What about dinner spots? Any dinner spots that are on your bucket list or maybe play? And these are not things that you want to do. These are things that you just love doing. Maybe you have friends in town. You're like, hey guys, we're going here. You know, I got us reservations.
My two spots are close together.
Yeah.
Your fancy spot, the prime rib at Chris's Steakhouse on Lindbergh is to die for. It's phenomenal.
It's really good.
And if you want a low-key spot, off Lindbergh, Grassi's. Grassi's, the shells, the salad. It's been a favorite ever since I was in high school. And when we moved back to St. Louis, it was one of the first places I took my kids to eat. And thankfully, they love Grassi's as much as I do.
You forced them. You're like, hey, we're going to keep going until you like it. But it's one of those things where it's like you move away and you come back and these places are still here. These are institutions of St. Louis, you know, and it's so, and you mentioned Ted Drew. So a lot of the places that you're talking about are places that you probably went to as a kid that now you can show your own kids and different things like that. So no, Jarrett, I appreciate you for coming on to the show today and to be here to spread this message, but also, you know, to talk deeper about what you guys do and educate our audience. So our audience is, you know, that 21 to 35-year-old person that might not even be aware of City Academy yet, or, you know, this might be their first time discovering City Academy. So just to wrap up, for our younger people that are listening to the podcast today, I mean, in a couple sentences, just tell us, you know, a little bit about what you guys do. I mean, I know we've talked about it the whole time, but it's just different for some people of like, you know, in a younger point of view of like, you know, what you guys are actually doing in St. Louis.
So we're educating the future of St. Louis day in and day out. We're providing scholarship. We're supporting families that are often overlooked. And the one thing I'll say to close is everything great that's happened in St. Louis has happened by St. Louisans coming together.
Yeah.
And City Academy is a great example of that, from what Don has built, and knowing that we can continue to do more is what keeps us powered every day. So do what you did. Go to our website. Look into who we are, find ways to contribute and get involved, and tell people what you heard today, because we don't want to be the best kept secret in St. Louis. We want everyone to know about City Academy and what we do. Yeah,
no, that's great. And then I forgot to talk about this, but the fact that, is it 100% or the majority of students receive scholarships to your school?
100%.
100%. Okay, I thought that was right.
Yeah, $5.2 million in scholarship dollars every year.
Wow. No, that's incredible. Well, Jarrett, thank you so much for coming on. And St. Louis, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the STL Bucket List Show. See you guys next week.
Hey, St. Louis, Brent Labowitz, Labowitz Law Firm, personal injury law firm here in St. Louis. Excited to be part of the STL Bucket List and sponsor them for their podcast. Just want to go ahead and say, if you ever need a personal injury lawyer here in town in St. Louis, give us a call, look us up. You get involved in an accident of any type at all, give us a call, free case evaluation. We'll try to walk you through the process.
Today, they rep St. Louis. What to do in the loo on a late night, or maybe what to do on a date night. Yeah, bucket list has you covered. They know what's going on.